Welcome back to the Reboot Era. Today's episode is all about navigating career transitions, layoffs, and the evolving job market with a practical, human-first approach. Today, I'm joined by Sharon Markowitz, founder of Your Career Wings, and a seasoned product marketing leader who's worked at companies like Zoom and Intuit. Sharon brings a powerful mix of real-world experience and coaching insights to help professionals rethink how they approach job searches, networking, and even AI. If you ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or unsure about your next career move, this conversation might be for you. Let's hop into it. If you're anything like me and you're tired of spending 20 or 30 minutes filling out an application only for it to go to the reject pile, or even using the easy apply button on LinkedIn only for your application to never be seen, well, look no further. JobHire.ai offers you a really cool opportunity where it applies to jobs on your behalf. And if you don't get an interview in the first 15 days, you'll get your money back. Now with this, you can sign up, put in some of your information, and you don't have to constantly repeat that process. You do it one time, you set it, you forget it, and the interviews roll into your inbox. Sign up today, use my code DRAY30, DRAY30 for 30% off.
I'm Sharon Markowitz, founder of Your Career Wings, a coaching business.
Sharon, this has been a long time coming. I'm so excited to have you on this podcast today. But before we dive in, can you tell people how we connected?
Absolutely. So we actually connected on LinkedIn. So one of the things that stood out to me were a lot of your posts on LinkedIn were just very authentic. You shared your experience about navigating a layoff. And it was like you weren't just talking about your own journey, you were helping others and in part like building a community. And here we are today. So I do think people matter. And I work with professionals at all points within their career journey. But at the end of the day, what really resonated with me that you care.
Thank you. And thanks for joining this community that I'm ideally building, kind of building. I looked through your LinkedIn. I looked at some of the cool companies you worked at. And of course, like most people, I used Zoom over the pandemic. You worked at Zoom. So tell me, what did you do for them and what was it like to work there?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a great company, also an amazing product that we all know and love. But at Zoom, I built the product marketing function for the app marketplace. So most people still know Zoom for meetings, but Zoom's got Zoom phone, contact center, and more. And at the time when I was there, Zoom phone was growing significantly. And so what that means is sometimes you can't always build everything that customers need in the product. So I worked with partners who could solve those gaps and then would develop like how we brought those solutions to market with the sales team. So if I were to just say it simply, it's a marketing role in tech, but it's got a mix of strategy, a bit of positioning, some relationship building, all those things I enjoy. And that's what I did.
I love it. It sounds like a really cool position. You were there. You worked at Intuit twice. You also have your own business, which we're going to get into. But throughout your career and those transitions, have you ever been laid off?
I've been there. I get it. It can honestly sometimes feel like that roller coaster you never saw coming, not the ride you chose to pay for. But I think that having been there, I think the most important thing is, especially for those listening, if they've been impacted, is that it's not about you. It's about the company. And it really is that simple. But I know that our mind can play tricks on us.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's tough to sit there and like resonate with all of that though, and like understand fully. So could you maybe go a little bit deeper on what you mean by that?
Yeah. So I think that, a lot of, certain thoughts might come to mind, right? Like, oh, I'm never going to get a job again. But the reality is you just had a job. So you know what? You are going to get a job again. Other thoughts that might come to mind might be like, oh, now there's AI. I have to learn AI, and it's like, hey, you've learned new things before. So guess what? We can figure out what's right for you as it relates to learning that, right? You don't have to be an expert in everything. But I think with that, as I said, it's the company, it's not you. When you are interviewing, the most important thing is to know why you did leave your current company. because that is a question they're going to ask. And the answer is honestly that simple. It's, I was impacted by a reorg or a layoff, and then just quickly move on to what interests you about the role in your candidacy. That's it.
I love it. The tips that you're giving here, tackling that elephant in the room right away is so helpful. But there's one we didn't really get into yet, which is about AI. And I'm curious, do you believe in what we're seeing today in the market that people are losing their jobs because of AI? And how are you currently using it that may be helpful to others?
Yeah, no, it's a totally fair question. I mean, people are losing their jobs to AI. At the same time, there also is poor management, right? As it relates to, a company and the amount of layoffs year over year we are now seeing. Um, so I think as it relates to certain fields, when you're looking for what's next, it is important to understand like how plentiful there are jobs in that field anymore, right? Because those might now have changed or evolved. But when it comes to AI, I feel, it's more important to focus on what you can use. Sorry. You're going to record all that, right? All right. When it comes to AI, I think it's more important to focus on what you can use it to your advantage. So it's not about doing work the same way. So, to your question, like how am I using it at work? And also maybe how I can like give an example to that and then how maybe it relates to job seekers. So at work, I support a sales team and they have to get up to speed on a lot of information quickly. So the challenge is that information usually like lives across different documents. It's hard to find what you need and it can sometimes become stale. So instead, I've gone ahead and uploaded everything into Google NotebookLM, like product information, personas, FAQs, messaging. It's all in one place. And it was in one place before, but the point of it is now reps can actually search through documents and they can just ask questions and get answers right away. So they get what they need in real time.
Wow, that's impressive. And I did take a moment to look up what this is. But I think maybe me, maybe the people listening, how could you use Google Notebook LM as a job seeker today?
I think it's twofold. One, as I mentioned before, it's really important to think about how you can use AI to your advantage. And one of the questions not more common than not on interviews is going to be, how did you use AI? So the example I'm going to share also gives you a way to start using those tools if you aren't already. So the second is the example. So you're going to go ahead and use Notebook LM. Think of it like your own library. And in your library, you decide what books are there, or in this case, content. So, like, say you have an interview tomorrow with Waymo, an autonomous driving vehicle company. You could be new to the industry, or perhaps you're just wanting to quickly get up to speed on the company. But you got an interview. You have to be smart quickly. So you go ahead, you create your Notebook LM, and you upload the content you want. So it could be YouTube links, could be press releases, it could be, other relevant information. Then, based on what you know about, you can query or want to know about, excuse me, you can query that information and simply ask, hey, give me a 5-minute, recap and prep for the interview to get smart on the industry or the company. And, quite frankly, I'm an Audible lister in terms of books, so that's great for someone like me, but you can also get like a text format too. So it's however you learn and absorb information best.
Wait, I love this because it's going to give you, all the information that you need really in one place. And then also how you choose to learn, whether it's audio or by reading with text, you get that output. So I think that's a huge win. And I'm definitely going to explore it more on my free time. I would encourage other people to try it out too. And if you have other tools, yourself, other people listening, send them in and we'll go explore them together. I want to pivot a little bit because we're talking about that's a great tip for people who are searching for a job today. But what are you seeing? And maybe you can talk about your career wings a little bit, but like, what are you seeing in today's job market?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's a challenging market. I don't know what the right word is, but that's the word I'm using. What I've been seeing a lot is, you know, like when working with clients, some clients are like, hey, I've been applying to lots of jobs and I'm not getting anywhere. So that's what I kind of call at times, if it's not well targeted, the spray and pray approach. So you're applying to a high volume of roles and you hope something sticks. And it makes sense because you probably feel a lot of pressure. You need to do something, right? Um, but often it kind of can lead to burnout. It can lead to not really getting what you need, which is a job. So it's better to kind of take a step back, think about your approach, being clear about like, what do I want next in terms of a criteria? Like, does that mean remote or hybrid or in office? Does that mean big, small company? Like a lot of different things that can matter in terms of your criteria. Then it's like, how are you positioning yourself? And where you're focusing and how you're spending your time. So I think that it's better to take a step back to move forward, to land the ideal role that you want, and recognize also that sometimes that ideal role is part of your messy career journey, right? In which maybe you take a contract role first, or a temporary role in order to get to that next role. But they all should, move you forward to what you're solving for.
Yeah, taking that step back, I think, is so important. And being able to just kind of see all the options that you have is also super helpful before you decide to take a step in any direction. But let's paint a picture. If we were someone today who just lost their job, or maybe they're thinking about a transition in their current role or current company, what would you recommend that they do first?
Yeah. So don't just go and apply first, right? But I would say, like, just referencing like a client that I had worked with, he had recently been laid off. So everyone's situation is unique. So, he had been promoted at his company. He literally relocated to another state and then was told, all right, we need return to office. Now, the company knew that he relocated. And so it was also apparent that it wasn't going to be feasible for him to be taking flights in and out, for a job. So he found himself back in the job market. And it really starts with understanding what you're solving. So for him, yeah, he needed a job. But his biggest career challenge was how to position himself for what's next. So as I gave a bit of insight to before, it's about, rethinking your criteria, clarifying your story. So for him, he was ready to call this new place he just moved to home. And that meant he was open to hybrid work. He also wanted, greater responsibility, but staying in a similar field and industry. But he also wanted a larger company. So some things stayed the same, some things, shifted. And so that, though, at least allowed him to kind of really focus, target the right companies proactively, and ultimately land a role.
That's nice. And you gave such great advice. And I think one thing we haven't really talked about yet is how are you able to give such a great advice? You've definitely navigated a few transitions for yourself, but could you share what that's looked like and also talk a little bit about your career wings? Because we haven't touched on it yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I have transitioned myself. So I started out, as I like to say, working for sexy canned Del Monte tomatoes, and then moved to be closer to the customer, and worked at Safeway, now Albertsons. But ultimately, I moved from consumer goods into tech. And for me, having had experience, I just didn't want to start over, and that really was my biggest challenge. And the shift there was realizing that my experience still had value and I just needed to translate it. So, as it relates to your career wings, so now I coach clients, at all different stages of their career journey, um, and always ask, hey, what's your biggest challenge? So, some people, might not have an experience problem, right? They're just not positioning themselves, right? For kind of translating what they know for this next job. Others, might need to upskill. So maybe they're looking to switch fields or, get into a new industry. And it really just depends on kind of what their biggest challenge in their career is right now. Um, and so I've been there, I get it. I created your career wings because I just don't believe in a one size fits all. I think we all have unique journeys and unique challenges to how to help people to move them forward. But I would say also, like the way I work with people is like, okay, let's align on our objective in terms of what we're solving for, and then let's work it out. Like, let's do it, right? It's always like, the concept of like, you can have a great idea, but if you never execute on it, it doesn't matter.
Okay, sorry. I think that that was great. I apologize for digressing. Um,
I love it.
we met on LinkedIn. You have an amazing career. You have great advice. People are not going to get enough of you. They're going to want more and more of your information that you have to share. Can you talk about networking? What is that like? Is it important? Some people say it's not. Some people are like, I don't want to add all these people on LinkedIn and message them and talk to them. Should we be doing this? Is there another way?
Yeah. Well, I think, okay, yes, a few things. So, first, in terms of like, is there another way? So, first of all, I think a lot of people sometimes say, like, I don't have a network, so I can't get a job. Well, let's take a moment. And I would ask everyone, did you graduate from high school? Did you graduate from college? Um, do you maybe go dancing every night? Maybe it's salsa or something like that. And there's a group, I know. So is a little plug for you. So is that a social group, and not everything has to be about work, but it's, recognizing, and I know on previous podcasts, you've talked about your alumni connections, right? So I think that, think about the ways you engage today and start to think about them a little bit broader as it relates to a group or people who maybe said, oh, yeah, I volunteer at this nonprofit. And, just start to just kind of realize you have a much bigger network than you might think about. So when you say, like, are there other ways? There are ways online and there are ways, in person to network. In terms of yes, let me go back and say, yeah, and networking is extremely important. But I think it's about how you approach it. So, like what we were just talking about, right? Kind of about group dynamics, social communities, and so forth. So it's like a warm feeling. We want that warm feeling, right? It shouldn't be transactional. So oftentimes what happens is I need a job. So let me start reaching out on LinkedIn. Okay. Well, that's not the greatest, approach. If you think about, like, I always compare this to like buying a car. If someone immediately tries to sell you, you kind of shut down or get annoyed, or maybe just kind of leave and go to the next lot, hoping it will be different. But I think if you take the time to understand what you need and build trust, it's a completely different experience. And networking works the same way. So think about, I don't want to be like a used car salesman, I want to be authentic. I want to be real. I want to be helpful. And I want the person I relate to be the same.
Yeah, I definitely have been getting a lot of LinkedIn messages lately from
Hmm.
random people. And if you guys ever watch this, which I don't think they do, I encourage you to keep trying. when your first message is, I want to sell you something or I need something from you without like
Yeah.
developing and building that rapport, it's like, I don't want to respond to you. I'm sorry. Um, but side note, since you talked about my dancing, because I now have to tell the
Of
podcast,
course.
I go line dancing for the last probably 6 to 8 months. I go line dancing every Wednesday at a minimum, but I also sometimes go on the weekends. Sometimes I go every night when the bar's open. It is fun. I don't drink, but I love to line dance. And funny enough, this just happened on Saturday. I live in Boise, Idaho. We have a big company called Micron here that people may or may not have heard of. Micron is like, it's weird. It's headquartered right here in Boise. There's thousands, tens of thousands probably of jobs that they give. But yet when you walk around Boise and you meet people, you never hear people go, "Oh yeah, I work at Micron." Like you just don't meet the people who work at Micron. They probably live in like the hills or somewhere I'm not going. But ironically, I was out on Saturday, I was dancing, and I just approached this group of people and I was asking them like, what do they do? And do they all line dance or swing dance? And then one of them was like, I work at Micron. And I was like, it's been 3 years. You're the first person I've ever met who works at Micron. And I was like, this is so weird to do in a bar, but can I have your LinkedIn and can we connect?
But you
So
did it,
yeah, but I did it. And it's that
right?
easy sometimes. So
Yeah. And the worst thing that can happen is they can say no,
Yeah.
right? And you won't know that unless you ask.
Right.
So,
Yes. Exactly. And that's the thing is I'm sure I'll see him out again and now I get to develop that relationship and who knows, maybe one day Micron might be on my list of places I want to work and now I have a connection who could make more connections for me of people who work there and maybe recruiters. So, yeah,
yeah,
it was
I
cool.
love it.
Um
Yeah, and I'd almost build on your whole point about how you've gotten like a lot of in mail, like sales or what, someone that you're like, I don't know what you want is, again, for those listening, I think it's really important. Say you are listening today to the podcast. And you're like, hey, I want to connect with either Dray or Sharon. So you send an email, if you're typically a premium subscriber on LinkedIn, and you should just put something really basic, like give a little context of why you're connecting on LinkedIn. Don't connect without a message. So first, the message, it could be something like, hi, Sharon, I was listening to Dre's podcast. I appreciated your perspective. So I wanted to connect. Great. That's it. And now, because you did that, just like you did with the Micron example, right? In a different format, you now can network going forward, right? Because you can build a relationship. You can ask for, more things. It also helps you when you go back and you have 1 million people you've connected with on LinkedIn. Um, who's who, right? And how you met them. It helps both of you actually,
yeah.
which I think is just important as you build a relationship, especially with people you haven't, encountered in real life and don't really know.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kinda asked you answered my last question that I like to ask. So I'm gonna ask an in-between question. So people maybe they might forget, they might not. So with what we have just kind of going on and what you're doing with your career wings, do you have any free resources that people can take advantage of?
Absolutely. So for those in particular, whether so you need this if you've been laid off, though it's not an immediate um, guide that you can necessarily utilize. But if you are currently in a career transition and looking for what's next or worried about layoffs, I do have a guide, a career transition checklist, and it goes, it talks about, from how to make sure you're not using your work laptop for personal things, even if it's just an email, even if it's just a quick look at a site, even if it's a Yelp reservation, it's whatever it is, don't do it. Like just everything needs to go. If it's personal, stays with personal. If it's work, stays with work. Hate to say it, but yes, people can track things, especially at this stage. And then so that's a really good resource that I've been there, I get it. That's why I created it. So you can download that for free. I don't know if you provide that somehow as a link as part of the follow up to the podcast. There's also another really cool resource for those also on AI. It's how to create your AI style guide, so it sounds more like you. So, say you're using ChatGPT, and it sounds like a bot. Therefore, how can you make things more authentic? So, if you've started to write something, how can you optimize it, but still with your voice? So, it's kind of a step by step guide. And again, that's all at topmate.io/your career wings.
Yeah, I'll throw those links down in the show notes for anybody who's listening to this so you can see that. I'll also share it out on the LinkedIn post that I like to make about these when I share them out. So people can have access to all of those links.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and then my last question for you, which is how I end every podcast. You kind of touched on it, but are you open to people who hear this to resonate to connect with you on LinkedIn?
100%, right? And remember, please do not send me a blank email or email, right? Make sure you have context in it. And that's honestly also, it's practice, right? It's something you should be doing. It's a habit that you start to just do and it becomes natural and not feel forced. So yes, connect with me. I'm sorry, Sarah, I'm trying to help, but I'm just like, yes, connect with me on LinkedIn. And, if you are looking for more guidance, I do offer, a free consult to just get to know what is career coaching, what's your challenge right now, in terms of how I could potentially help. And then last but not least, thank you, Dray, because I really love what you're doing here. It's real, it's authentic, it's you. And I love the people you're bringing together on this, whether it's online or via the podcast. So
As a reminder, I'm partnering with jobhire.ai. You can use AI to find a job. If you don't get an interview in the first 15 days, you'll get your money back. The way it works is you actually fill out your information one time, you select the jobs you want to apply to, and it applies to jobs on your behalf. You set it, you forget it, and you let the job interviews roll into your inbox. If you want to give it a shot, you can use my code DRAY30, DRAY30 for 30% off. That wraps up today's episode with Sharon Markowitz. A big thank you to Sharon for joining the show. If there's one takeaway, it's this: your career journey isn't linear, and that's totally okay. Whether you're navigating a layoff, exploring something new, or just trying to get unstuck, the key is being intentional about your next step. If you found value in this episode, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to connect with Sharon on LinkedIn. Just make sure you include a thoughtful message when connecting. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Keep rebooting.